Good morning. We start with lecture 9 under the title of Dental Articulator and Face Bow. Good morning. We start lecture 9 in the title of Dental Articulator and Face Bow. First of all, we must know what do you mean by dental articulator. Dental articulator is a mechanical instrument that represents the temporomandibular joints and the jaw members to which the maxillary and mandibular cast may be attached to simulate some or all the mandibular movements. Functions: number 1, to allow most of the prosthetic work to be done in the absence of the patient, such as diagnosis, treatment planning, setting of teeth and development on balance articulation, and finally waxing of the dentures. Number 2, maintain the jaw relation record during setting up of teeth. And finally, denture remounting after processing for correction if there is any occlusal disharmony. Types of dental articulator. Class 1 articulator, which means that simple hinge articulators, while Class 2 mean value, or also its name, fixed condylar path articulators. On the other hand, adjustable condylar path articulators include Class 3 semi-adjustable condylar path articulator and Class 4 fully adjustable condylar path articulator. Later on, after the development of dental articulator, there is established digital computerized articulator programming. Simple hinge articulator, or what you call the plain line. The design of this type of articulators consists of two members, the upper and lower member. And there is a distance between these two members can be adjusted according to the case. And these two members joined together posteriorly by a screw can increase or decrease the distance between two members. This type of articulator allow hinge movements such as just like opening and closing. This slide shows the different design of the simple hinge articulator. Possible movements of this type of articulator. This is allow just opening and closing movement. Records required. Vertical dimension of occlusion, centric relation records. Disadvantage of hinge articulator. These articulators don't represent the temporomandibular joint and the dynamic movement of the mandible because it's just opening and closing without any lateral or protrusive movement. Class 2 articulator, which is mean by mean value or fixed condylar path articulator. The two members, upper and lower members of this articulator, are joined together by the two joint, not like the previous one by one screw. It's a two joint which represent the temporomandibular joint. The horizontal condylar path fixed at a certain angle, that is range from 30 to 40 degree, and this range has been selected because it's considerable with the most of the patient. The incisal guidance table is also fixed at a certain angle from horizontal. On the fixed condylar, most of the fixed condylar articulator, most of this articulator, the upper members are the movable part, which represent the condyle, and the lower member are non-movable or fixed parts. This slide shows the Class 2 or mean value articulators. Possible movement of mean value articulator, opening and closing, the same like previous one, and we can add the protrusive movement at a fixed condylar path angle. Record requires vertical dimension of occlusion, centric relation record, face bow record in some types of these articulator. When the face bow not acceptable or not present in this type of articulator, we can mount the upper cast according to the bone wall triangle. What do you mean by bone wall triangle? A bone wall triangle found in the mandible that the intercondylar distance as well as the distance from each condyle to the center point between the two lower central incisor was equal to 4-inch equilateral triangle. The anterior pointer attached to the incisal pin of the articulator to locate the tip of the occlusal rim labially, and thus to orient the cast in relation to the bone wall triangle. Disadvantages of the mean value articulator: most of these articulators don't accept face bow record. B. The condylar path move to the fixed angle, and it is successful in the patient whose this angle approximate to this type of articulators. And finally, no lateral movement obtained from this type of articulator. Well, the adjustable condylar path articulator. These articulators different completely from the fixed condylar path articulator. That is, can be adjusted the condylar and incisor guidance. They can adjust it. The movement of the jaw closely resemble to the movement of the mandible for each individual patient. It is divided into the class 3 semi-adjustable condylar path articulator. The design of this articulator, the horizontal condylar path adjusted by protrusive record obtained from the patient, while the lateral condylar path inclination is adjusted according to the Hanau's formula. Hanau's formula means that the lateral condylar path equal to the horizontal path divided by 8 plus 12. Some semi-adjustable articulators are non-archon, while the others are archon. The term of archon, this is mean that or indicate that instrument has the condyles on the lower member, example that the human beings, and the condylar guidance on the upper members. This slide shows the different designs of the non-archon semi-adjustable articulator or class 3 articulator. On the other hand, next slide shows the record archon semi-adjustable articulator, also class 3 articulator. Possible movements of semi-adjustable articulator: opening, closing, the same as the previous articulators. Protrusive movement according to the horizontal condylar angle determined from the patient, while the lateral movement to the angle estimated from the Hanau's formula. Some of these types have a minute movement. This is in that immediate side shift movement. Disadvantages: the lateral condylar path angle is determined from the formula, which is being explained in the previous slide, and also most of these articulators have no minute or slide shift movement. Records required for the semi-adjustable articulator: number 1, maxillary face bow record to mount the upper cast. Some of these semi-adjustable articulators have orbital plane guides. What do you mean by orbital plane? Orbital plane guides allow the cast to be mounted in relation to the orbital plane axis, or also infraorbital foramen or axis for the patient, and to orient the cast on the articulator in the same relationship to the dental arches as in the patient. B. Centric occlusion relation, which include the vertical dimension and centric relation to mount the lower cast. And finally, protrusive record to adjust the horizontal condylar path inclination of the articulator. On the other hand, the fully adjustable articulator or class 4 articulator is different from semi-adjustable articulator that the lateral condylar path inclination are adjusted by a record taken from the patient, not like the previous one semi-adjustable obtained from the formula. Possible movement of fully adjustable: the same movement of semi-adjustable articulators. In addition, they have a minute or side shift movement. Disadvantages: all these advantages and all these improvement in the articulator also have disadvantage for the complete denture construction, because the large record or multiple number of record are required, which possible of the error. Therefore, the semi-adjustable articulator are usually enough for the complete denture construction. Record required for the fully adjustable articulator: maxillary face bow record to mount the upper cast, the same as the previous articulators. Centric occlusion relation record to mount the lower cast, as in the previous one. Protrusive record to adjust the horizontal condylar path inclination. The difference from the previous one by the last 2 points: the right lateral record to adjust the lateral condylar path inclination, and left lateral record to adjust the right lateral condylar path inclination. Later on, after the development of the dental articulators, they designed digital computerized articulator programming. The virtual articulator are able to design processes kinematically. They are capable of simulating the human mandibular movements, moving digitalized occlusal surface against each other according to this patient, and finally correcting the digitalized occlusal surface to enable smooth and free movements. There are two main types of digital articulators: completely adjustable articulators, mathematically simulated articulators. For the first one, computerized adjustable articulator, it's also called motion analyzer. It is record the exact movement path of the mandible using an electronic jaw registration system called jaw motion analyzer, as seen in this figure. Jaw motion analyzer is a device for tracing the jaw of the patient. It consists of the face bow with sensor, lower jaw and pointer sensor, occlusal adapter, and finally software system. While the mathematically simulated articulator, it's also called motion parameter, is based on the mathematical simulation of the articulator movements. It is a fully adjustable three-dimensional virtual articulator capable of recording the mandibular movement of mechanical articulator. Now we start with another part of the lecture, which and the title of face bow. What do you mean by face bow? It's a caliber-like device that used to record the relation between the maxilla or maxillary arch and the temporomandibular joint or opening axis of the jaw, and to orient the cast in the same relationship of the opening axis of the articulator. It consists of three-part U-shaped frame assembly, condylar rods, and fork. Later on we explain this part. Types of face bow. There are two basic types of face bow: the kinematic and maxillary face bow. Kinematic or mandibular, also named hinge axis locator face bow. It is used to locate the kinematic or true terminal transverse hinge axis. The transverse hinge axis is an imaginary line in which the mandible rotates during opening and closing for about 20 millimeters. For the second type, maxillary face bow, it is used to record the position of the upper jaw in relation to the hinge axis and transferring the relation to the articulator. The maxillary face bow is oriented to the arbitrary hinge axis. The arbitrary axis is positioned in a line extending from the outer canthus of the eye to the middle of the tragus of the ear, and approximately 13 mm in front of external auditory meatus. This is represent the center of rotation or axis of rotation of the condyle. The air face bow also designed to utilize the arbitrary axis by fitting into the external auditory meatus. This slide show the parts of the face bow: the frame, fork, and the body. Also, this part, the fork fixed to the upper or maxillary bite rim, and then from the patient transferred to the articulator, while the fork can be used to adjust the distance between each condyle. The purpose of this device to transfer the relation between the maxilla and temporomandibular joint or axis of rotation. What the importance of the face? Why we use the face bow? Number one, an arbitrary mounting of the upper cast or maxillary cast without face bow transfer can introduce error in the occlusion of the finished denture. Number two, face bow transfer allow minor changes in the occlusal vertical dimension on the articulator without having to make a new mandibular relation record. And finally, it is helpful in supporting of the maxillary or upper cast while it being mounted on dental articulator. Thank you for your attention.